And welcome to this video where we will talk about the digital divide. The digital divide can be defined as a social issue referring to the differing amount of information between those who have access to the internet, specifically broadband access, and those who do not have access. Another definition of the digital divide is that it is a gap between students who have access to the internet and devices at school and home and those who did not. The digital divide continues to exist between learners who are using technology in active creative ways to support their learning and those who predominantly use technology for passive content consumption. The digital divide is not a clear single gap which divides a society into two groups. It can take such form as lower performance computers, lower quality or high price connections, in other words, narrowband or dial-up connections, the difficulty of obtaining technical assistance, and lower access to subscription-based contents. Some further concerns with the digital divide is that in some rural areas, people are still using dial-up internet. According to a 2017 article from Time magazine, parts of the Appalachian region remain as backward and stunted as stereotypes depict them. Decades into the information age, folks in this part of the country continue to make do with dial-up connections. This makes the accessibility of rural areas to the internet a great test of the digital divide. There are also conflicting reports regarding the actual number of rural areas with high-speed internet availability. According to the New York Times, a 2018 study by Microsoft concluded that 162.8 million people do not use the internet at broadband speeds. However, the FCC says broadband is not available to only 24.7 million Americans. That's a big difference. These factors, as well as others, have caused arguments that the digital divide needs to be closed. Let's look at a few of those arguments. One argument is economic equality. Some think that the access to the internet is a basic component of civil life and that in some countries that are developed aim to guarantee this for their citizens. Another argument is social mobility. Some believe that computer and computer networks play an increasingly important role in their learning and career, and so education should include computing and use of the internet in the educational curriculum. Another argument is democracy. Some think that the use of the internet would lead to a healthier democracy in one way or the other. The final argument is economic growth. Some think that the development of information infrastructure and active use of that infrastructure would be a shortcut to economic growth for less developed nations. As we can see, there is a definite need to bridge the gap in the digital divide. The idea that some information and communication technologies are vital to quality civic life is nothing new. Some suggest that the internet and other technologies are somehow transforming society, improving our mutual understanding, eliminating power differentials, realizing a truly free and democratic world society, and other benefits. Now we will look at some ways how the gap can be bridged in the digital divide. The Digital Divide Council tells us that we need to increase digital literacy because a narrow view of what digital literacy actually is has existed for a very long time. The second thing they tell us is that we need to provide operational incentives to information and communication technology entities. There are various organizations that are fighting hard to narrow the digital divide, but sometimes existing laws and financial barriers can thwart these efforts. Providing incentives relieves the burdens encountered by these institutions, and this responsibility especially lies with existing governments. Number 3, develop relevant and local content. The target audience should directly relate to the benefits they will enjoy from digital literacy. Number 4, encourage the establishment of cyber clubs which would be charged with promoting digital literacy. Number 5, establishment of workable partnerships between all information and communication technology stakeholders. Information and communication technology stakeholders should frequently join hands in abating the digital divide. And finally, provide innovations geared towards overcoming the digital divide that will replace ad hoc ways with innovative ways of doing business. We will conclude by watching this short video on the benefits of closing the digital divide. As we can see from what we have learned in this video presentation today, closing the digital divide is very important. The digital divide affects nearly every area of our lives, employment, education, and so on. So closing it would be a great benefit to all.